taking on an apprentice or finding brilliant young talent is hard. I think we are quite progressive in what we deem an apprentice to be and the value that we see. It's not that they're doing anything wrong or intentional. They just don't necessarily know how to behave. And just myths that young people don't want to join the industry. They do. They call the shots, not the employers. So we need to be absolutely drawing them in and convincing them that automotive is the industry to join.
This episode is sponsored by BM Catalysts, Europe's leading manufacturer of catalytic converters, DPFs and front pipes, helping to keep vehicles running cleaner and greener. Welcome back to Garage Talk Unwrapped, the podcast with me, Vicky.
And me, Ben. In this episode, we talked to Eleanor Baker-Barnes from Apprenticeship Central.
We're going to dive straight into this chat with Eleanor about why young people should be choosing the aftermarket,
some of the challenges in attracting apprentices,
and what garages can do to help.
Eleanor from Apprenticeship Central, welcome to Garage Talk Unwrapped, the podcast. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
So today we're going to be chatting about how we can make the aftermarket industry a more welcoming place to come and look for work, especially for young people, and how you fit into that at Apprenticeship Central. Once you join the industry, you never leave, is what everybody says. Everybody just kind of like moves around and stays there forever. But first, we need to draw the people in so they can join us. So tell us a bit about what Apprenticeship Central does and your role there.
So Apprenticeship Central was set up really, I think, as a vehicle to tackle the skill shortage head on. I think we've all been talking about the problems around skills for years now, but actually it's really a case of we need to take action. And from our perspective, the easier we can make it for employers to take action, the more likely they are to do so. Because taking on an apprentice or finding brilliant young talent is hard and it's time consuming and there's lots to navigate. So Apprenticeship Central has almost packaged everything to make it really easy for employers to say, yep, I'd like an apprentice. This is what I want them to do. And then we kind of do everything else. So we find employers brilliant young talent, but most importantly, we then set them up with the right training providers and then we help them long term.
That's only half the battle though, isn't it? Surely you have to find a brilliant employer as well.
We do. And in all honesty, that's the harder bit. And we'll get into this, but there are brilliant young people out there that are looking for their first opportunity in the world of automotive. So it's about matching the right employers with the right apprentice. And even in the year that I've been running the business, we've definitely noticed a shift in uptake, in appetite, but also what employers need. So at first we were very much recruit and retain, but now it's around creating apprenticeship programs for people, about safeguarding support, about workshop, about onboarding. So anything that really comes into the world of an apprenticeship, we support.
Do we still suffer from apprenticeship cheap labour?
I'm pleased to say that I think we're definitely moving away from that. I think there are very few examples where we've seen it. And I think that's come where there's maybe been a history or a perception of what an apprentice is in years gone by. And that hasn't necessarily changed within that individual business. But I would say as a whole, the industry is fully supportive of what an apprentice can bring to a business. And we don't treat them in that way.
Do you think that's the automotive industry? Obviously, that's your experience. Do you think that's the experience of the whole of the economy? Or do you still think the sector's there where it is?
To be honest with you, I think we are quite progressive in what we deem an apprentice to be and the value that we see. I think there's been huge shifts in the apprenticeship landscape since Labour have come into power, and they're really trying to change the narrative around what an apprenticeship is, the value of that versus a university degree. And we're having lots of conversations around that at the moment, which is super interesting. But we've seen a shift from what was previously a level 7 apprenticeship, so like a degree level apprenticeship. Yeah. All of that funding's now being removed and put into level 3 and even level 2, like foundation level apprenticeships, because we've got a huge proportion of our 16 to 18-year-olds are NEET, so not in education or technical training or employment. And we've got the highest rate of young males being in that category than we've ever had. So there's a big shift to use apprenticeships as a way to tackle getting that pool of talent back into industry. So I think we have changed the perception, and collectively we are now using apprentices in the right way.
Because they take a lot of training and a lot of your time up, don't they? So they're actually, as long as you put the right input in, you get the right outcome. I think it's like anything in life.
Completely. You have to do it properly, and it's not just a tick box exercise. There's so much more that goes into it, and when you do it properly, you get the results, and we see those employers then reinvest and do it again and continually improve. And then they have a pipeline of talent that they've got their apprentice that was an apprentice 7 years ago, 8 years ago, now teaching the next lot of apprentices, and it all gets easier. Whereas we've got employers that maybe haven't had the best experience for whatever reasons, never want to do it again. And that's kind of a problem that we need to tackle.
I've always been a big advocate of people going out to work as soon as they can, because if you look at a lot of entrepreneurs in the UK, their education's poor. And actually, there's nothing better than learning on the job. So I think get out there and work.
There's the option to do like a full-time college course and come up with the same qualification as you would if you were doing an apprenticeship. And we hear a lot of employers that have maybe got someone that's technically level 3 qualified, but actually, because they haven't had that hands-on practical experience with the equipment in your workshop, the way that you do things, they're not as productive as a level 3 should be. Whereas if you take on an apprentice and then they get their level 3 qualification, well, they've grown for 3 years within your business.
They can almost hit the ground running, can't they? Because they've done the work and learnt it.
And your way, because you're able to shape them and mould them to how you want things done. I think one of the biggest challenges we see is having the time and the skill set internally to properly support an apprentice, because exactly as you say, I guess there's 2 parts of it. There's showing them and allowing them to develop their knowledge, skills and behaviours, which is what makes up an official apprenticeship. But then it's having the right support, the right structures in place so that the mentor knows exactly what they're meant to be doing. And they've been even trained in how to be a brilliant mentor, how to communicate with a young apprentice, what their expectations are. What we can't be doing is throwing an apprentice into an environment where nobody within the business fully understands what it means to be an apprentice, how to work with them, because ultimately then we are setting things up to fail. And it's not just the apprentice that maybe doesn't get their qualification or leaves and works with a different employer or whatever it may be, but it's what's more notable is the long-term impact that has then on the rest of your team, because they've completely disengaged with the idea of an apprentice. They've lost confidence in the process. They're not willing to give up their valuable time that reduces their efficiencies and productivities to teach someone else if it hasn't worked before. So as employers, we need to set up proper structures before we even consider taking on an apprentice to ensure that we're able to give them everything they need.
We heard an example at Shafler Conference 2 years ago, didn't we? Somebody said they'd had an apprentice and worked out they weren't doing it ever again.
Because they were on their phone all the time.
Yeah. The phone thing is a battle.
But if you set the parameters at the start, again, you've got to saying like if it's personal, just make sure it's appropriate and don't do it for too long. Because I think the olden days of don't be on your phone have gone. We're a more open world. At the end of the day, what we don't want to do is the apprentice sat there worrying about something that's going on at home when it's just a quick text can sort it or something. So it's a balance, isn't it? It's a matter of managing it rather than straight out bans or letting it get to you. It's like nip it in the bud.
And I think it is that. It's a lot of the time they've come straight from a school environment in which it's been really structured. They've been told where to go, what time to do this, what to have for lunch, who they need to speak to about everything. And there's really clear-cut policies. And even listening on the radio this morning talking about banning phones in schools completely. They then enter the world of work, which is completely different, dealing with new characters, different dynamics, trying to navigate what's going on in their life and also what it means to now be employed. That if we don't set those really clear boundaries, expectations initially, then it's not that they're doing anything wrong or intentional. They just don't necessarily know how to behave. So sometimes it's stripping it right back and almost thinking, if this were my son or daughter or niece or nephew and they were entering the workplace for the first time, how would I want them to be treated? Silly things like making sure they've got workwear ready for them, their desk set up or their workspace set up so that they feel valued and welcomed the minute they arrive. Because I think that initial onboarding period has so much impact and often people underestimate it because things are just so busy and it's like, right, they've arrived. Let's pop you with that person for today because your mentor's actually not here and we haven't quite sorted this out yet.
Yeah.
And then loyalty isn't what it used to be. People don't have a job now for their whole working life. So if you're not clicking and not making it work right at that beginning point, chances are they're going to leave.
So how should a garage welcome an apprentice? I suppose that's an appropriate time to ask that.
So I think with an apprenticeship, the prep starts before the apprentice has arrived. So it is thinking about onboarding, right down to who their mentor is going to be, because that relationship is going to be pivotal. And it's not necessarily just who is the best at that particular job, because they might be a brilliant technician and have the best skill set and all of the experience, but they can't communicate properly, or they're not patient. So therefore, with the best will in the world, it's just not going to be possible. So really thinking about what you need from a brilliant mentor, giving them the right support so that they can effectively mentor, and then making sure everybody in the business is aware of what an apprenticeship is. So like the off-the-job hours, for example. An apprentice will have to complete a set number of hours per their standard. Typically, it's about 20% of their working week. Well, if not everyone understands that and they see them on a Wednesday afternoon twiddling their thumbs in one of the offices, they're not going to know that actually that's their time allocation for their college work or whatever it may be. So the more everyone can understand things, the better. And then it's also about not just treating them as an apprentice. So not just giving them jobs like sweeping the floor or
making tea.
Yeah, meaningless tasks that don't have any impact. They want to feel part of a team. They want to feel valued. So get them doing things that they can take ownership of, and then praise them and shout them out and give them that kind of credit when they're making a difference.
Are you tired of chasing car parts over the phone? PartSync connects trade buyers with trusted suppliers in one platform. No calls, no delays, just parts. Get real choice, new, used or genuine OEM. Compare brands, warranty, price and delivery. Suppliers, connect with active trade buyers ready to buy your stock. PartSync, bringing the parts industry together. Book your demo at partsync.co.uk.
This isn't background noise. This is Garage Talk, the UK's independent automotive voice, now across 3 platforms. Garage Talk Radio streaming online on Alexa and catch up on Mixcloud. Garage Talk Unwrapped, the podcast, available on all good podcast platforms. Garage Talk Unwrapped, the video magazine. Watch and subscribe on YouTube. Breaking news, big conversations, real workshops, real stories. If you're in the trade, you should already be listening. Search Garage Talk. Turn it up, get involved.
So bringing it back to the aftermarket a bit, why do you think the automotive aftermarket is an exciting career path for young people?
For us, and I think the way that I particularly look at it, I never expected to join the industry, but I've been in it for 10 years and I absolutely love it. So there's so much opportunity in this industry, and I think it's about communicating that to everybody. There's not many industries that are as welcoming of different backgrounds, different entry levels, so you can have no qualifications and the industry will welcome you with open arms if you're hardworking, if you're got something about you, if you're willing to ask questions, and if you're willing to learn. And there's also not many industries that you could join, get your head down, work brilliantly, and be running an incredibly successful business, opening sites, opening your own business in not that long of a time. So I think this industry, the opportunities are almost endless for the right person, and I think that's incredibly exciting. It used to be that to get onto a level 3 apprenticeship, for example, you had to have level 5s or your Cs. Well, now, once you're over 19, your employer can determine whether they think that's relevant. So now someone over the age of 19 without maths and English can get onto an apprenticeship and can get qualified.
Good.
And for people that are already doing the job, that brings so much credibility and so much pride, but also it opens up to people that previously wouldn't have even been considered.
That's great. What would you say the main challenges are then at the moment in attracting young people to the industry?
This is really interesting because, and I'll be honest here, like, we don't have trouble attracting talent.
Okay.
We are hugely oversubscribed. So the way that we work is when we set up a recruitment campaign, we recruit bespoke for that vacancy. We don't just have a bank of apprentices that we pull from. And the number of applicants that we get are beyond what anyone would expect. Absolutely, they're not all going to be the perfect candidate, but we'll have over 100 applicants. We put them all through our program and then we present maybe a handful of them ready to the employers. So people absolutely do want to work in the industry. I think there's a lot around misconception, misunderstanding, and just myths that young people don't want to join the industry. They do, but we need to be creating the positions that are there for them.
So 2 questions. Is there any particular things you look for in that CV that makes you think they're going to be good for the industry? And then when they're actually in the apprenticeship, is there any skills or traits you see in young people that make them stand out?
So for us, we don't really look at CVs, to be honest with you, because nowadays everyone knows what ChatGPT is. And like we can see it when they leave the commas in or the big dashes, like you can spot a chat CV. So with the way that we do things is we actually get them to learn about what the industry is and what they're applying for, because sometimes they might want to work on the service side of things, but they've applied for a body repair apprenticeship because they're just seeing automotive and thinking it's all the same thing.
It's definitely not.
So our program, as I say, it gets them to look at videos of what a day-to-day actually is, what the expectations are, things like health and safety, competencies. We understand why they're applying, what really drives them, what they're looking for, and then match all of that with a brilliant employer. So for us, it's not about CVs or qualifications. We look at the person, because when we're speaking to employers, the thing that they value most is attitude. They feel as though you can teach someone anything. If you've got the right attitude, then that's so valuable. So there's almost no, this is what we need and this is how it works. It's, you're a brilliant person and you just need someone to give you a shot, and you're committed and you're going to show up on time and you're going to listen and you're going to take things on. They're the people that we look for.
And when they're in the job itself, what makes them stand out? Is it everything you've just said?
I still think it's those qualities, but I also think being a team player is hugely important in what you do, and understanding that the value your wider team can give you. So understanding that you've been given an opportunity to do an apprenticeship, that's a huge commitment for you, but it's also a huge commitment from your employer. And the better you understand that, then the more accepting or the more grateful you are of the time and energy that's being given to you, because it is a big commitment. And if we can take away a lot of the admin and the paperwork and the hassle, then the mentor and the employer can focus on making sure that they're getting the knowledge, skills and the behaviours, and the apprentice can focus on actually just learning on the job.
Which apprenticeship roles are you seeing most demand for right now?
So over the last year, we've definitely seen a big demand for panel technicians when it comes to body repair.
Okay.
Because they seems to have the most challenges when it comes to the ageing workforce. So there are absolutely brilliant panel techs that have been in industry forever, but they are now looking at retirement. And we've got employers that are dropping them down to maybe part-time hours just to try and keep them that bit longer. So we've recruited the most panel technicians, which is interesting because people often think that's the hardest to recruit for because no one wants to do it. But we don't seem to have that problem. And I think it's really important that employers are recruiting an apprentice in panel before 40 years of experience and skill know-how completely disappears from your shop floor.
Some succession planning.
Completely. But also we've definitely seen, I think, a shift in how people see apprentices, and also actually using them as a way to future-proof their business throughout. So accounts, HR, admin, parts, you name it, there's an apprenticeship route into most organisations in automotive. Yeah. And we have to acknowledge they are a cheaper way to bring people in than buying expensive talent that you're maybe getting preconceived ideas or, I did this before in this way. So we're hugely passionate and big advocates of bringing apprentice talent in at all stages of your business to have that pipeline of talent.
You said preconceived ideas. Panel technicians used to be called panel beaters. Mm-hmm. Since you've started calling panel technicians, are you getting a more variety of person applying for the role?
Honestly, I wouldn't say so, because I think I would say a lot of the people that we have apply for panel tend to have a relative or someone that they know that's currently doing it. So they're almost told this is a really good role and it's in demand. So I think they're still getting that from the industry.
So the wording of that title doesn't matter? So.
No, but the other thing that we have done is almost change how we're recruiting, like job descriptions. Yeah. So things like a VDA. Does anyone know what a VDA is? Unless you're a VDA, a vehicle damage assessor. So we don't focus on
the jargon
job description. It's the skills that you would develop, the qualities that are important, and we try and word things in language that people actually understand. So we liken roles and responsibilities to hobbies or interests they may have, especially with the advancements in tech and EV, or that software and gaming and programming, that all makes sense because that's language they're being spoken to at school about. They're not being spoken to about panel and estimating.
No.
So we have to use the right terminology and speak to people in the way that they understand.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that you mentioned EVs there. I'm guessing that's been a big change in the last few years with different apprenticeships being available and other people looking for EV roles. Do you see much more, in the next 5 years, any more of that evolving? How is that going to change?
I think the type of talent that we're able to attract because of the advancements in the industry is going to change, and we're already seeing that. So we are seeing people that, an example is someone that's done part of a maths degree that was looking for a role in automotive, didn't want to do a typical kind of what your stereotype would be, hands-on on the shop floor, but actually we're able to find them something now because the industry has those roles or is developing those roles. So we're able to attract from a much broader talent pool and compete with cyber and software development and some of the kind of, let's say, sparkly industries that people are drawn to because of the roles that are being created. So I'm really excited for the future of apprenticeships in industry and the more diverse talent that we're able to bring in.
At Ben, we provide free health and wellbeing support for life to automotive industry people and their families. Whether you're struggling with stress, money worries, or your mental health, help is just a call away at 08081 311 333 or visit ben.org.uk to chat or access tips and tools.
When quality matters and emissions count, demand precision. BM Catalyst is Europe's leading manufacturer of aftermarket hot-end emissions products. From catalytic converters and OE-level components to expert technical training available on Garage Pro, BM delivers best-in-class manufacturing, rigorous performance and full compliance. Need parts you can trust? Visit bmcats.com. Partner with BM. Drive profit, exceed expectations.
I think it's fair to say that young people either consider the automotive aftermarket or they don't. How do we change the minds of the ones that don't want to, but there's a skill?
This, I think, is huge on parents. So the biggest or the most influential people in deciding what your young person is looking to do are still parents, by far. So I think it's interesting because candidates can almost see the opportunities in automotive and see what's available, but parents can't because they're not necessarily, they're not seeing what's available. So I think as an industry, we need to pull together and show what it's like to run a multi-site, multi-million-pound organisation. We need to show them that you can start as an apprentice with no qualifications and then be leading some of the biggest organisations within the industry, because there are so many brilliant examples of success stories, like we were saying earlier. So let's share that with parents. Let's get out there more. Let's open the doors to our workshops, to our businesses. Let's talk about what it really means to be in automotive. And that's where we can make a difference in bringing in new talent.
So can you share a success story of a young person who might never have considered the aftermarket but thrived through an apprenticeship?
There's a lot. And it's really interesting to see, and even over the past year, we've seen a change in the type of candidates that we're attracting. And I think, again, that relates to the different roles. So also some of the front of house roles or the customer service roles. We're bringing in brilliant females, maybe people that are slightly older, that have got transferable skills, that are still looking at an apprenticeship. Yeah. It's not the type of person that you would first assume. And again, that's how we're wording things. That's how we're recruiting, that we're reaching those people and say, look, this is what you say you love. And these are all the things that you're looking for in an ideal role. Well, actually, this would be perfect for you. And as soon as they go and then they meet the people and then they feel part of the team, they almost don't see that it's automotive. It's just where they work and they absolutely love it.
Brilliant. So what's one surprising thing people would be shocked to learn about working in the automotive aftermarket?
How welcoming it is, how much of a community it is, how supportive people are. It's just that, in that people want people to do well and they're willing to help them get there. Yeah, there's always the competitive edge with organisations. But actually, when we're talking about bringing young people into the industry, I think we collectively come together and we make it an incredible place to start your career. And I think that's something that especially parents wouldn't necessarily expect. So we need to shift that perception and get them feeling more comfortable about putting their young people into the industry.
So you've got no regrets about being in the aftermarket?
I absolutely love it. When I talk to people, if I say body shop, they think I mean like cosmetics.
Yeah,
and that's,
yeah.
But yeah, I just absolutely love it. And I would highly encourage anyone else to join.
It's great. I mean, loads of people in the industry call it a family, don't they? And you do hear it. And, you know, sometimes it can be a bit of a dysfunctional family.
Yeah,
but
very much so.
What family isn't?
Yeah,
It's just-
exactly.
that is exactly what families are.
But yeah, it is really supportive. And like we said at the very start, once you're in it, then
You
tend
never
not to leave. But thank you so much for that, Eleanor. That was a really interesting chat. We covered why the aftermarket is such an exciting career path for young people, some of the challenges in attracting apprentices, and what garages can do to make the sector welcoming and supportive.
Before we wrap up, for anybody listening, either a young person curious about the career or a garage looking to bring on an apprentice, what's the very first step they should take to get started?
So for potential apprentices, speak to people. As we've been saying, people are willing to share their stories. They're willing to talk to you about what they're looking for. So for anyone considering joining, use your Saturdays, go and do some work experience. If you're still at school,
Saturday work experience.
do it, get stuck in, because also once you commit to a 3-year program, it is a long time and it tends to be one discipline that you're doing. So go and try a bit of everything, go and ask questions, talk to people, get their advice, and then make your decision, because there's absolutely no rush. And now apprenticeships can start at any time. You don't even have to wait for a September with on-site training delivery. So just start putting the feelers out there. And then for employers, I would say just start. The first is always the hardest. You learn so much. Every apprentice is different. There's no one size fits all, but just start, refine, improve, continue investing, because your apprentices now will be the best advocates for your business in the future. So the sooner you start, the sooner we fix the problem.
That's really good advice. And it sounds like with you, the employers have a great partner there to help them along, even with that first one.
Thank you. That is our core focus, is to take all of the headache away from apprenticeships. So there really is no excuse to not be investing. The world has changed and young people aren't going to walk into your business and ask for a job anymore.
No.
We need to meet them where they are. So we need to change how we're recruiting, how we're setting things up to make it attractive, because nowadays they call the shots, not the employers. So we need to be absolutely drawing them in and convincing them that automotive is the industry to join.
That's it. Well,
Brilliant.
thank you, Eleanor. Thank you so much.
Amazing.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
Really interesting time in that is with Andy Burnham just taking over as PM. There's never been a better time for the whole country to change its mind on apprenticeships,
Why are you saying that?
because it's a clean slate for Burnham. He's got this chance to really invest in youth employment. We've seen today as well the NI may be free for under 25, which again is another good
For employers.
for employers, because they can't keep putting money and taxes on employers and expect them to take on people.
It is an interesting time, definitely. I found it quite surprising in a good way what Eleanor was saying about, you know, this misconception about how the aftermarket isn't attracting young people. You know, she was saying that they get so many applications for roles that they're posting out there. And I love how she said it's a myth that they don't want to work in the aftermarket, because they do. We just need to make sure that transition from school into work, into the right workplace is as good as it can be.
The problem, of course, is that businesses can take less risk these days because of back to the costs of taxes and things. So actually, you're going to take less of a risk taking on somebody that's already been in work and been in the industry than actually taking on a young apprentice, which isn't right, because I do bring the apprentices on, but that's just the way it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think one thing to take away from this is apprentices are worthwhile. However, there is a certain amount of time that you do need to dedicate to them. It's not just hire an apprentice, let them crack on. There does need to be some thought behind it. But once you get over those first few months and, you know, they're embedded in the role and they're doing it the way that you want it doing, because you're molding them from, you know, straight from school, you know, it's got to reap its rewards. So it's not something to shy away from, but neither is it just super easy. But Apprenticeship Central are there to help.
Yeah, brilliant. That's all for this episode. A huge thank you to Eleanor Baker-Barnes. You can find out more about Apprenticeship Central at apprenticeship-central.co.uk.
And as always, another massive thank you to BM Catalyst for being this episode's sponsor, the UK and Europe's leading manufacturer of catalytic converters, DPFs and front pipes. You can find out more at bmcat.com.
And finally, thank you so much to you, the listener. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to follow Garage Talk Unwrapped on your favourite podcast platform and hit the bell so you never miss an episode.
Yes, thank you very much for listening. Next time we have Tim Godotti on, and it's a special Pasta and Pod episode. Luckily, there's not too much of that. We talk to the fleet guy about the history of Fedotti Motor Services and the opportunities Fleetwork presents for independent garages. So I'll see you then.
Very interesting. See you then. Goodbye.